Okay, so I'd like to call this regular meeting of council to order on September 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. We'll stay seated for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Oh, sorry, it's the mayor's address first. It was with great sadness we were informed of the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on September the 8th, 2022, at the age of 96. Queen Elizabeth II served as the Queen of England and the Commonwealth for 70 years. Her popularity was evident from the large number of people lined up to pay their final respects. Prince Charles III assumes the role of king with the Queen's passing. On Friday, September 16th, 2022, I met with MPP John Yakubowski and David Hoover of our Mennonite community regarding the interior Northland busing route change that the Mennonite community has requested. The current bus stop is the Shell station in Cobden. However, due to the traffic congestion at this site, the owners of the Shell station will be discontinuing the service. However, the bus stop will be moved to the Civitan Park in Cobden. The majority of passenger traffic using this bus stop are members of the Mennonite community, and safety is a concern for their residents and horses. The opportunity now exists to provide a bus stop in Douglas and or Eganville, reducing the travel time and improving safety for the Mennonite community. The observation gazebo has been moved into location on the Wilkins Trail overlooking the wetland area. Plan for crossing of the wetland via Corduroy Road is being reviewed by the consultant providing the environmental assessment. On behalf of council and myself, I want to welcome Benjamin Schoenfeld, the successful applicant for the position of equipment operator truck driver in the Public Works Department, effective September the 6th, 2022. Could I get a mover and a seconder that the September 20th, 2022 mayor's address be accepted as presented? Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Becky Schoenfeld. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councillor Burns. Yeah. Councillor Buckwell. Yes. Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
Councillor Becky Schoenfeld.
Yes.
Yes, that's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move to the adoption of the minutes for the September 1st, 2022 special council minutes and September the 6th, 2022 regular council minutes. Could I have a mover and a seconder that these minutes be approved as presented? Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Buckwell. Any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, Councillor Burns. Yes. Councillor Buckwell. Yes. Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
Councillor Becky Schoenfeld.
Yes.
And a yes, that's carried. Thank you. And we do have a delegation tonight. We have attending virtually Jacob Hanlon and Christina Zarda from Food Cycle Science. Jacob and Christina, are you with us?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us on. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay with you.
Chance to, two of us anyways, got to look at your food recycler at the AMO conference, and we look forward to your presentation tonight. So please go ahead.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'll just note that it is just myself on tonight. Christina could not make it, so it will just be me doing the presentation. Can you please confirm you can see my screen?
It's still loading.
Can we try rapping on the show? Please.
Is it still loading now?
We have it now. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Well, I just want to start off by saying thanks for having me on tonight. I'm Jacob Hanlon, and I'm here on behalf of Food Cycle Sciences Municipal Solutions team to discuss a residential solution to food waste. As was mentioned, we had met some of your counselors at the AMO conference this year, so we're excited to be here and share our food waste solutions with all of you tonight. So just a bit about who we are. Food Cycle Science is a Canadian clean technology company based out of Ottawa, and we're 100% focused on food waste diversion solutions using our innovative technology called the Food Cycler. Our in-home food recycler is sold directly to consumers through partners like Vitamix and Breville, and our municipal solutions team has a very successful residential program which helps municipalities divert food waste as well as reduce their greenhouse gas emissions that are associated with waste. I'll also mention that Food Cycle Science is a finalist in Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge, and we've been awarded some funding to go towards these types of municipal programs. Now, we work with many small, rural, remote, and northern communities. As of today, there are 42 municipalities across Canada who have signed on to a food cycler program. In terms of municipalities nearby to North Algona Wilberforce, we have partnered with Renfrew, Bancroft, and Carleton Place, to name a few. So the problem with food waste is that it is avoidable. It accounts for a large portion of our household waste. It's smelly, and it's made up of mostly liquid, which is heavy and it can freeze in the winter as well. On top of that, food waste decomposing in landfills is responsible for generating harmful greenhouse gases that contribute to the impacts of climate change that we're seeing today. All these factors make it so that food waste is a problem and it has a strong municipal impact. So one of the impacts to municipalities is that since food waste makes up such a large portion of our household waste stream, it's causing our landfills to fill up quickly. Landfill costs and waste collection costs are a major cost to a municipality and ultimately to taxpayers. And in terms of the environmental impact, when organic waste decomposes in landfills, it's squished together and doesn't get any oxygen, so the anaerobic environment causes it to produce methane, which is a greenhouse gas many times more harmful than CO2, and it's a major contributor to climate change. In terms of our communities, putting food waste in the bin outside can cause some interesting odors which can attract unwanted visitors such as bears, raccoons, and other vermin. So removing food waste from the garbage eliminates these issues, and it also reduces the volume of waste. For the town, this can save on operations and collection costs and extend the lifespan of the landfill. And for residents, there's less waste, no smell, and they may make fewer trips to the landfill site and save on excess garbage fees. So we often get asked, haven't we solved this already? There are options available like green bins, which millions of Canadians are accustomed to, but this type of service is popular in large cities with high population density and an investment in expensive infrastructure. Many people in your community might backyard compost, which we love and we think it's fantastic, but the reality is that many people may not have the space, the ability, or the desire to do this at home, and participation rates have been stagnant for decades. So finally, we can continue to landfill our organics, but in the long term, the impacts here are costly and harmful to the environment. So at Food Cycler, we proposed a different way to deal with our food waste, which really focuses on making food waste very easy to deal with and right in our homes. Essentially, we built a small kitchen appliance about the size of a bread machine, where you put your food waste in, and that can include meat, poultry, fish, dairy, even some bones. You push a button, and in a matter of hours, you have a dry, sterile, odorless, and nutrient-rich soil amendment that comes out. The machine can be used anywhere that has a plug, and most people would store it in their kitchen, in their basement, or even in a heated garage. The food cycler will process on average 1 kilogram of food waste per cycle, and each cycle takes about anywhere between 4 and 8 hours to complete, and it uses less than 1 kilowatt hour of power, which would be the equivalent to having a computer plugged in for the same amount of time. The result is about a handful of dry, sterile, and odorless soil amendment that can be used in gardening, in an existing composting system, can be given to a local farm, or even processed with leaf and yard waste systems. From an environmental standpoint, the food cycler compares to backyard composting and anaerobic digestion, but it does represent an approximate reduction of greenhouse gas by about 95% compared to sending food waste into a landfill. In terms of the economic impact, our solution offers a return on investment by significantly reducing your waste management costs. In the short term, you'll have less disposal and lower operating costs, and in the long term, you'll extend the life of your landfill, and you'll also achieve higher diversion without implementing any costly curbside programs. With traditional waste services, we generate waste, we put it into a bin, a bag, or a receptacle, and it ultimately ends up buried in a landfill, either through collection services or self-haul from residents. With the food cycler, you have a resident generating their waste and processing it right at home, without the need for offering new services or putting trucks on the road, and they can benefit from generating their own fertilizer to enrich their garden. And additionally, your community can achieve higher diversion without implementing costly programs like green bins. So one thing we've learned from working with our municipal partners is that residents are very interested in being part of the solution. They want to try new things and they want to do their part to fight climate change, and they want their government to bring these things into their community. With the food cycler, you get to bring something innovative and tangible to your residents, and they don't need to live in a big city to be able to divert their organics. We think that food waste diversion should be available to every Canadian, no matter where they live. Now, on top of this social pressure is the impact of the regulations that are coming to us here in Ontario. There are a number of diversion targets that are coming into effect in the next couple of years, so it's important to have a plan in place that meets these goals and also works for your community. And what we're doing with the food cycler is reducing waste at the source and focusing on that low-hanging fruit. Because since food waste accounts for such a large portion of our waste stream, it's the single most impactful strategy to achieving these diversion targets. I mentioned earlier, we're working with several municipalities across Canada, and to date, we've completed pilots in over 3,000 households across 24 municipalities. Through these programs, we've seen that the results are overwhelmingly positive. We have very high levels of participation, and we achieved a significant amount of net new diversion. Almost everyone who participated would recommend the food cycler and will continue using it upon the completion of their programs. In the city of Nelson, BC specifically, their council voted to put a food cycler in every home in their city of 10,000 people following the success of their pilot programs. So in our municipal programs, we work with the municipalities and offer a subsidy model where Food Cycle Science provides a discount as well as federal funding from Impact Canada. This brings the price of the unit down from a $500 retail price to $250, and then we ask the municipality to subsidize the cost by at least $100 per unit plus shipping, so that the resident only ends up paying $150 for a $500 machine. Some municipalities will share the cost with the residents by subsidizing more than $100 per unit, but ultimately this cost sharing model allows Food Cycle Science, federal grants, the municipality, and the resident to each have a hand in funding this food waste reduction program. For a municipality of your size, we would recommend a program consisting of 50 households where the $250 unit cost is shared between the resident and the municipality in a format that would be similar to the one here on the screen. So for example, if 50 households participated in the program, it would be a net cost to the municipality of $5,000 plus shipping. So I'd like to welcome North Algona Wilberforce Township to be a part of this initiative, as we believe that your community would be a great fit for the benefits of this program. Today, I kindly ask that you receive our presentation, and if there is interest in a program, to refer it to staff for a report and a recommendation. I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to present to you today, and if you have any questions, I'm prepared to answer them at this time.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Jacob, and it is good timing for council because in a month, maybe 2 months, we'll be moving into our budget discussions. So I will turn it over to council if there's any questions, and hopefully you'll be able to answer them.
Thank you.
Councilor Robinson.
Are there anything that you cannot put in the recycle?
Yes, so each food cycler, it comes with a manual with some detailed visuals on what can and can't go in and what can go in kind of smaller amounts or sliced up. So it can take basically everything apart from, let's say, steak bones, any bones that are very thick. It'll take chicken bones and fish bones, but once you get into the thicker bones, it won't really break them down. And then kind of a few other outliers would be things like peach pits that are very hard, but avocado seeds or pits there, like those will be processed right through. And then I'll also mention that we have a new product coming out as well in January. It's the same size, but the bucket is essentially doubled in capacity. So instead of it taking in 2.5 liters of food waste, it can take in 5. And that unit it's a bit stronger as well, so that you can actually put steak bones in, and it's pretty much not limited to, it allows you to put in basically every type of food waste. So I can also provide more information on that new unit if requested. Thank you for the question.
Councilor Buckle.
Actually, Jacob, you mentioned having a larger kitchen unit. Do you have larger units that can be used in, say, a commercial or an industrial center?
Yes, thank you for the question. So our company actually started out in 2011 making commercial and industrial units, and we've kind of engineered it to be even smaller for these household units. So we have, I would say off the top of my head, we have 6 different sized industrial/commercial units. And we find for these residential programs, so far we've mainly done the countertop units, but we have worked with restaurants, malls, casinos even. I would say even there's a farm boy here nearby in Cornwall, close to us. They have one of ours in their kitchen area. So the commercial units do serve a purpose, and they're great for kind of the higher intake and more frequent food waste situations. But in terms of our residential programs, we typically stick with the smaller units.
Thank you.
I had one question, and it was just, can you put, and I'm just thinking paper towel, will it take paper?
Yes, thank you for the question. So that's another kind of aspect that's outlined in the manual that comes with it in the kind of small amount section. So you can put small amounts of paper towel and tissue and it'll break it right down and everything. The only thing we kind of like to mention is that if you're using this and you're going to use the byproduct to go back into your garden, you want to be mindful of what you're putting in. So at the end of the day, a little bit of paper towel that gets mixed in with the compost and everything, it probably won't affect the garden in any way, especially because you're mixing this in the soil. But in terms of what it can actually process, it definitely can take paper towel.
And from the municipalities that you're currently working with, you're saying some of them have gone to completely providing every household with one of these units. Is that because they did a pilot first, and because of the interest that was generated that and the feedback that you got, that they decided to move forward with providing that option for every resident?
Yes, thank you for the question. So in terms of the example I gave with Nelson and out in British Columbia, they had some unique waste challenges in terms of their location and being having to haul all of their garbage several hours to the nearest landfill. And so they basically started with one pilot program, and it was very successful. So they did an extended pilot where they added another couple hundred units, and based off that first pilot, word of mouth had gotten out. We helped them with some advertising within their town, and the second pilot went equally as well. I can actually speak on that a little more, the first pilot was a sign-up basis. So typically the people who would sign up for it are people who are interested in this kind of thing or want to kind of help fight climate change or reduce their waste. But the second pilot was completely randomly picked. So they essentially picked 100 residents from their town and just plopped a food cycle on their doorstep and said, here you go, use this for 12 weeks and track your usage. And the results from the second pilot were actually more successful than the first, which was very interesting. And based on those two pilots and all the positive results, they decided that this is going to be their citywide organics program.
Very interesting. Did they do a cost benefit analysis to compare the food cycler to their regular means of disposal, which I'm assuming would be curbside pickup?
Yes, so they didn't have a green bin program or anything. So they basically did the analysis to compare options as well as compare it to going as is with continuing to put their food waste in their garbage and have that collected. And through this analysis, we provided some data as well. And we've worked with a few other municipalities on helping them kind of crunch the numbers and figure out the financials associated with the different options. And to Nelson, BC, this was the best option for them. And I'll just add on to that, what's really nice. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is that information or data that could be shared?
I believe so. I'll have to confirm with my superior, but I will definitely make a note of that. And if we can be in talks with your staff or one of your members, we can definitely get the information that you need, because yeah, we understand you don't want to go into anything blind. And between our 42 pilots that are either in the works or have been completed, we do have quite a bit of data, and it's definitely helpful to be able to share that with municipalities such as yours.
Thank you. That would be helpful. So I see no further questions from council. Once again, thank you very much for attending and providing the information. And if you want to connect with staff, if you are able to share that data, that would certainly be appreciated.
Absolutely. Shouldn't be a problem.
Thanks again.
Okay, thank you. Really appreciate it. Have a good night, Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a motion that the food cycle science company presentation be accepted as information. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Recchia. Councillor Burks.
Yes.
Councillor Buchwald.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
Councillor Recchia.
Yes.
And yes, that's carried. Thank you. And that brings us to reports, and the first one is regarding Enbridge Gas. And we also have with us tonight from JP2G representative that have you done the report, or you're certainly familiar with the report? So if council has any questions, you're here to answer questions. So I have a motion that this council approves the form of draft bylaw and franchise agreement attached here to and authorizes the submission thereof to the Ontario Energy Board for approval pursuant to the provisions of Section 9 of the Municipal Franchises Act. Secondly, this council requests that the Ontario Energy Board make an order declaring and directing that the assent of the municipal electors to the attached draft bylaw and franchise agreement pertaining to the corporation of North Algona Wilberforce Township is not necessary pursuant to provisions of Section 9, subsection 4 of the Municipal Franchises Act. Could I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Comments, questions? Councillor Recchia.
The projected 674 residents and businesses, is that a combination of both BV and
That's a great question. Just to give a little bit of background, so as the mayor mentioned, Anthony Homick, and I'm from the DPG Consultants, and we were hired by the township to assist with the review and with discussions with Enbridge. So, and so we did prepare this report that's also been provided this evening, and I can't answer that question. That would be something that would have to be directed to Enbridge. I don't know, perhaps Michelle, you would know.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that is the shared. And cost. Do you know if more non-people or you're not? Unfortunately, I don't have that. And when the 20-year agreement is, when the franchise agreement's up, then it's just renegotiated or just carries on? It can be renewed, yes. Okay. And what happens if, for some strange unknown reason, a line breaks, like, I don't know, we were digging something and we break a line? And is it our cost?
There is actually in the model franchise agreement, it spells out costs. So don't know off the top of my head on an accident, but I do know that it is very explicit in terms of cost. And if you have to move the line for a municipal construction project, for example, or if you're if something is relocate a line, but I would imagine that a break would be entirely one of that.
You guys, we broke it?
Well, I don't know.
Because I tried looking in the agreement and
Yeah.
it was difficult for me to figure out if that's what that meant or not.
I can certainly take a look at it and I could get back to Michelle and we can pass it along.
I was just like the costs that were incurred. Or if there was some, like an act of God, if beaver dam broke that was somehow watched it.
I think there is an active God enforcement or clause.
Yeah, of course, we should.
Yeah. I think there is a point in there, but I can check on that as well.
Thanks.
I think there was something in there, same as our cable locate, that if you are doing work, you have to contact the company ahead of time. I would imagine if they give you an improper locate, and you break the line, then
That's on that.
that's on there, or at least it wouldn't be the full cost that the municipality would be bearing.
Yeah, there is a program system that's called Carrier One Call that you put your information into when, if you're looking to do projects in close proximity to a pipeline. You would put in details about your project and then somebody comes out and does the locate and spray paints the line for you and tells you where it is.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Blackwell,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes,
Councillor Reggie Tonto.
Yes.
Yeah, that's carried, thank you. And thank you very much for me, getting back to us with some of those answers.
But
Okay. Item 7.2 is the council handover. So I have a motion that staff be directed to retrieve all council history now and then again at the end of council term. And further, that all members of council hand in all documents, letters, notes related to their position as members of council on or before October 21st, 2022 to the clerk treasurer. Could I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Buckwell. Comments or questions? Councillor Buckwell?
I'm assuming the simplest way to do that would just be to hand it on iPads to the second, should have been on there.
To the mayor, yes, that would be the simplest way, and then we'll contact them when the procedure is done to return them to you.
Councillor Robinson?
what about paper into documents?
Those should be handed over as well, or it's certainly, I'm assuming if you still need a copy, staff would make a copy.
So paper documents, those need to be handed in by October 21st.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes,
Councillor Reckley.
Yes.
Yeah. Very, thank you. Item 7.3 is the fire department surplus pumper. I have a motion that council accepts the report as presented and declare the equipment listed surplus and directs staff to dispose of the item. Then over to second, moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Comments or questions? Councilor Burns?
Both of them be put up for auction?
Yes, sir. It's plenty on the gov deals,
Right,
plenty on the gov deals website.
okay, yeah.
If for some reason nobody shows any interest, there's still an option to send fire apparatus to Northern Ontario to some of the remote native communities.
Check on that, I'm not sure. No, in the past, I've heard of sending it to Central America
Okay,
to some places as well. I don't know of any specific program regarding. Northern Ontario.
thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes,
Councilor Rakichenko,
Yes,
and yeah, very good. 7.4 is the fire department reports. I have a motion that council accepts the fire department April to September 22 report as presented. Did I get a move in a second? Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Burnt. Comments, questions? Councilor Rakichenko.
what's like a public service call, like is that like something?
I left it fairly vague in there because it was an incident that we don't advertise as a service that we provide. Specifically, it was a cat in a tree. That particular night, typically when something like that happens, somebody calls 911, dispatch center will page out and ask for the fire chief to call the dispatch center and find out what I want to do. In this case, I had them give me the caller's number. I contacted them directly to determine if there was anything we could do. And we made the effort and got the cat out of the tree. So the resident was very happy. She was very distressed about it. It was about 30 feet up in the tree.
Yeah, I didn't know if maybe it was like a fun fair or something where you go around. Talking with your firefighters.
Well, we do that too.
Now I know what that means. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions on the reports? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
yes,
Councilor Rakichenko,
Yes,
and yeah, very good. Item 7.5 is the Bollinger Union Library. I have a motion that council accepts the Bollinger Union Public Library CEO and board reports as presented. Moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Buckwell. Comments or questions? I just wanted to make a comment that the fundraising activities so far this year have been very, very successful. And, just looking at the book sale from this summer, that was great news that it did as well as it did.
extra $1,000 more. This year.
Seeing no other questions, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes,
Councilor Rakichenko,
yes,
and then yes, that's very, good. And 7.6 is the Wilkins Trail update. I have a motion that council accepts the Wilkins Trail Corduroy Road report and recommends for the environmental assessment that the preferred method of crossing the wetland along the Wilkins Trail be a corduroy road. We got a mover and a second, moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Comments or questions? Councilor Rector.
Let's see, it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth paragraph down where it says the Algona College and a private consulting firm. Like, did that cost us money, the private consulting firm?
Yes, Michelle.
Mayor, yes, there will be a cost associated with that, but we do have we have put money in the budget, in 2022 for this project.
Okay, and is the money, we put away, is that also for the gravel and the geotextile? I guess is that like kind of covering you put on top of the border road?
So we have received some grant funding for this project, so some of that will be covered under the grant.
And any idea how long a corduroy road will last?
From the presentation we had, it certainly can last, because the water, the logs are usually submerged in water. So as long as they're not exposed to drying and wet, as long as they're submerged in water, it will last a long time. As is indicated on a lot of our municipal roads that were at one time built through swampy areas with corduroy, and the logs are still sometimes working their way up. So the other part of that report, just for council's information, is that staff drafted a letter looking for a donation of logs and some slab material to also fill in between the logs once they're in place. We already have a resident of the Mennonite community who is willing to donate all the slabs. He lives very, very close to the trail. So the only costing would be for the trucking to get them in place. And we're still working on seeing if there's some of the members of the community and Opens Mill and maybe Shaw's and whether they would be willing to donate some of the logs for the trail. Did I miss anything, Michelle? Councilor Buckwell.
Yeah, this corduroy road, like you look at old cement, old camp road. Down where it gets up with Cement Bridge Road. That first 100 yards, 150 yards.
Yeah.
I can remember as a kid that being a corduroy road and the log sticking out of it, and it's only about what? The last 6-7 years, or maybe 8 years if that road was built up more. With fill to raise it, and it was still passable. So. For what we're looking at, yeah, it's gonna be in the water, and it's not gonna have as much heavy traffic on it. You're not gonna just having long trucks, things like that on it. I don't think anybody of us in this room have to worry about seeing it ever replaced.
Wouldn't think so.
No, I have to agree with that.
Councilor Robinson, did you have your hand
sorry.
up? Oh, okay.
Well, maybe Maria.
Definitely not.
Any other questions? Seeing that, Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Redkey.
Yes.
Yes, that's carried. Here. Item 7.7 is the Shawwoods Outdoor Education Center. I have a motion that council accepts the report as presented and approves Public Works to remove trees and brush from the planted parking lot sites. Did I get a mover in a second and moved by Councilor Byrne, seconded by Councilor Buckwell. Comments or questions? Councilor Byrne.
There's not a large amount of brush removal at the parking spot.
There isn't a lot. It's mostly
Small stuff.
the smaller stuff. And the request would be if we could go with the tractor and the unit on the back of the tractor just to clean it up.
All kind of-
Yes. And they estimate. I'm not sure that did Mr. O'Neill have a look at that yet?
I think I'll please not.
The Shawwoods board thought that it might be 2 to 4 hours a week. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes,
Councilor Ricky Trumpo,
Yeah.
and yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 7.8 is the location of fixed radar signs. I have a motion that council accepts the location of fixed radar signs report is presented and directs staff to install the fixed radar signs on the Traymore Road, Grist Mill Road, and have additional posts on Green Lake Road, Crooked Rapids Road, and a road to be determined. Then I got a mover and a seconder, moved by Councilor Bird, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Comments, questions, Councilor Bird?
The one road that, and it is a county road, but it's a Lake Dory Road coming into Golden Lake. The people coming into Golden Lake are just high speed. And it doesn't matter if it's summer or winter. That is one spot, and I don't know if the county will work on that with us, but that is one spot. We gotta show, and Doug lives there. It'll be one area that I'm really concerned with.
Yeah, come out of my place, you really gotta watch that train.
Well, you come over that hill so fast into Golden Lake.
So something we could do, because I did ask this question when we were at the annual conference as well, is as council, we could pass a resolution determining that to be a community safety zone. Then you have an easier time to get a speed reduction, and then we could put one of these radar signs up as well. Because even though it's a county road, the county is willing in cases where we as a municipality send a request, that they will cost share 50-50 with the municipality to put up that radar speed control sign. That's the bird.
And I know years ago, he put up that trailer that they had made,
Yeah,
and the people said that we usually people down. And that's why I'm saying maybe permanent sign there with that, because we have a lot of people coming in the door with them,
mhm.
and they come in the door.
That's a regular one.
We did budget it for this, right, in our budget, we have something, a line that was
These signs. We merit the sign for budget.
And the other thing too is like, didn't we commission a road speed report or something like that?
Yeah, go ahead.
We have, or it was included in the 2022 budget, yeah. Also,
Thanks.
So I guess just for direction to staff, would council be, is that something they would want to do is, have a resolution to send to the county on that, determining or identifying that as a community, safety zone?
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of what other areas might benefit from that same designation.
We just had one that was presented by Shaw Woods for lowering that speed limit between Highway 41 and I think a kilometer on the other side of the Shaw Woods Education Center. So,
I think my thought, Mr. Mayor, would be that if we have a report coming on speed limits within various areas of the township, perhaps we could make that part of the scope of that to also identify county roads or areas that might benefit from the designation of community safety zones. And then as opposed to going to the county with one there, 1 or 2 weeks and one there, let's get this together so that we can plan and they can plan as well.
that's a good idea because once a year, the county also sends out to the municipalities a request for speed limit changes on any of the county roads to do it. They like to update it once a year. And that I think comes, Michelle, you know, I think it comes in the fall.
we can check.
Okay,
We'll check with Karen.
but that makes sense, yeah.
Because again, I think we're gonna be partnering, hopefully partnering with the county again, and if they will share costs with us on their roads, it'd be beneficial to help them all identify that we could potentially do it once. Because even if if need be, even if we just put the mounting sign in those locations. So, because again, our signs can still be moved, even when they're fixed sites. Just being on the trailer, but even put the posts in the locations. That we haven't been able to move it as we have needs during the different seasons.
Right.
Because I think another location. May possibly Island Drive. In the summer when the camp is open. And potentially.
If you need drivers, there's money.
We had, I don't think you have a lot of traffic that doesn't.
Oh,
normally
no,
go
it's
through there.
the craft there.
But the other thing I'm looking at is what cemetery. And then shortly after the paper was gonna be out, I think like burning marks and. So maybe something along that stretch would be another location. So again, if we get the report together. And add those various locations into it, I think that might. Make it easier to put it into practice.
I would agree. So. Any other comments on this resolution? Seeing none, Council Burns,
Yes.
Council Buckle,
Yes.
Council Robinson,
Yes,
Council Reddick-Trumpo.
Yes,
I mean, yes. Carried, thank you. Item number 7.9 is the service tracker. And have a motion of council accepts the service tracker reports as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Buckwald, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Any questions, comments? Councilor Reddick-Trumpo.
what was the vandalism under public works?
I think that might have been the busted railing on the deck at Beacon Bridge, because they knocked out, I think it was 4 of the spindles on the railing. That's one I can think of. I don't know if there were others. Any other questions on the service tracker? I just had one comment. It's interesting to see the growth that's happening in our municipality where I think there were 110 building permits at the printing of the report, so that's a significant increase from previous years. Councilor Buckle?
If I just ask a question of staff. Just as we're going through it, I'm just looking at the report stats. And it shows 4 incidents for fire department. Are we cross tabulating fire calls and calls for service in the service tracker?
Not for calls, not for instance.
But just for other things like permits, so.
Seeing no further questions, Councilor Burns,
Yeah.
Councilor Buckle,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
yes,
Councilor Reddick-Trumpo,
Yes,
and yes, very here. So that moves us to 9.1, which is non-action. I have a motion that council accepts correspondence items 9.1.1 to 9.1.3 as information. I got a mover and a seconder, moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Buckle. Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckle,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
yes,
Councilor Reddick-Trumpo,
yes,
and the rest. Carried. And then we're at the action items. 9.2.1 is the Boncher Union Library. I have a motion that council sponsor the Boncher Union Public Library Pupil Rocks fundraising event in the amount of $500 from council's donations budget. Can I get a mover in a second? Moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Comments, questions? Councilor Reddick-Trumpo.
should they not fill out the donation form?
They should if they're requesting. Sponsorship.
We can forward the document to the board.
I think just to be consistent, with the- I think it's a good idea.
Councilor Buckley.
I agree with Councilor's suggestion, but I'm just thinking. As they've members, if you're part of the board. And the library is a jointly managed library. Is it necessary to do that or not necessarily an outside organization?
It's true, we are a partner. Yes, Michelle.
We can look at the procedure in the bylaw, attached to that policy. And determine if they meet the criteria, to complete the document.
Because I'm just thinking we don't have to make more work for staff, but let's not make more work for staff, as long as it's fair and transparent.
Councilor Rickard
And
Johnson.
perhaps if it's not there, then we could make it there. You know what I mean?
And
Just
clarify.
amend their donation policy to reflect something like that.
When's the timelines for their event?
November 12th, sorry.
Oh, so we have time. We don't have to the next meeting. So would council agree then to defer this to the next meeting? Okay. I'll call the vote to defer. Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Rafi Schoenfeld.
Yes,
I'm a yes as well, so that's deferred. Item 9.2.2 is the Eganville and Area Community Development Group request. I have a motion that Algona Wilberforce Township purchased a township business Eganville and Area Community Development Group membership for $100. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councilor Buckwell, you're moving.
Oh, yeah.
So
We can't discuss it if we don't.
that's right. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilor Burns. Comments? Councilor Buckwell.
This is something we've done in the past. Or if it's a new request.
This is a new request, something that they did put in the information that they sent to staff is that if the municipality currently, Councilor Robinson sits on Eganville and Area Community Development Group, but I believe you pay your own members.
That's the normal business business.
If we purchase a membership via the township, then any member of council can attend the meeting and participate. So, Councilor Robinson.
And it also gives you the ability, a lot of the fundraising that's being done for projects that we might see. They might also, because a large number of their membership are North Algona Wilberforce's residents. That if we have fundraising opportunities that in our community, that they would also be able to participate in all of that.
So it's another good partnership.
Yes.
It is a new request, but I mean. The fact that any member of council can use the membership is an advantage. Councilor Buckwell.
And we have a budget line for council memberships, do we not?
I believe we do.
Yes.
So we already have a budget line for it, so. If it fits in there and the amount of funding, I'd be okay with it.
Any other comments? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Rector.
Yes.
Yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 9.2.3 is Greater Madawaska Township. I have a motion, whereas the Township of North Algona Wilberforce received correspondence from the Township of Greater Madawaska and supports their request regarding their resolution 200-22 regarding redistribution of federal electoral districts with regards to its potential effect on the Township of Greater Madawaska, and signs the petition in opposition, and directs staff to share their Facebook post to the township's respective social media accounts. And that a copy of this motion be sent to Robin Emo, Deputy Clerk Township of Greater Madawaska. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councilor Buckle, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Comments, questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burks.
Yes.
Councilor Buckle,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reggie Schoenfeld.
Yes.
Yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 9.2.4 is the Legion Military Service Recognition Book. I have a motion that council will advertise in the 2023 Royal Canadian Legion Military Service Recognition Book with a color 1/4 page ad size for $553.10 plus HST. Can I get a mover and a second? Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Byrne. Comments, questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burns.
Yes.
Councilor Buckwald.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilor Rector Schoenfeld.
Yes.
Yeah, very, thank you. Item 9.2.5, the Township of Ashfield, Colburn, Wawanosh. Whereas North Algona Wilberforce Township received correspondence from the Township of Ashfield, Colburn, Wawanosh, and supports their resolution regarding Ontario Wildlife Damage Compensation Program, and requests that the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs review the administration fee provided to municipalities for the administration of the Ontario Wildlife Compensation Program, and that a copy of this resolution of support be sent to the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. I'm going to move in the seconder, moved by Councilor Byrne, seconded by Councilor Buckle. Comments, questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckle,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Rector Schoenfeld.
Yes.
Yes, it's carried. Thank you. Moving on to bylaws. Item number 10. I have a motion that bylaw 2022-52 being a bylaw to authorize a franchise agreement between the Corporation of North Algona Wilberforce Township and Enbridge Gas Inc. be read a first and second time this 20th day of September 2022. Can I get a mover and seconder? Moved by Councilor Buckwald, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Comments, questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burns.
Yes.
Councilor Buckwald,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Rector phone call.
Yes.
Yes, it's carried. Thank you. Item 14.3 is the Ontario Sheep Farmers request. Item motion of council accepts the report as presented and directs staff to amend bylaw 99.14 to include livestock guardian dogs. And we're gonna move in a seconder, moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Buckle. Comments, questions? Councilor Rector Schoenfeld.
So before it actually turns into the bylaw, we're still gonna vote on the font. So Jill is going to reword some of the stuff, because I just had a question about the.
So, yeah, we'll, they report and then a bylaw council to review.
Okay, because in that one of the last paragraphs, she said, the current status, added short-term wording to aid the enforcement, and I don't know, I think that's about dog aggression and stuff. Which we agreed with part of it, but there still needs to adhere to the bylaws regarding aggression. So I have a feeling he's gonna reword something in the amended bylaw to reflect that.
That's my understanding.
All right, and then we'll still vote on it when we get that.
So, yes, I report. And if I will cover by bylaw, will come back to council for.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Council Burns,
Yes.
Council Buckwell,
Yes.
Council Robinson,
Yes,
Council Ricky Schoenfeld,
Yes,
I mean, yes, that's very tempting. Are there any matters of urgency?
None.
Any notices of motion?
No.
So upcoming meetings, our regular council meeting, our next regular council meeting will be October the 4th, 2022 at 7 p.m. And we will also have a communications committee meeting on October the 4th, 2022 at 6:45 p.m. And then I have a motion, item number 15, the council will in closed session pursuant to section 239 2D of municipal act regarding one labor relations or employee negotiations and one plans and instructions for negotiations. And I'm gonna move in a second and moved by Council Burns, seconded by Council Buckhold. Council Burns,
Yes.
Council Buckhold,
Yes.
Council Robinson,
yes.
Council Ricky Schoenfeld,
yes,
I mean, yeah, so we will be going to close at 8:02. Motion that council direct staff to proceed as directed in closed session. Can we get a move in seconder, moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Ricky Schoenfeld,
yes.
and yes, Mary. And it's our confirmatory bylaw, that bylaw 2022-54 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for September 20th, 2022, be read a first and second time the 20th day of September 2022. They're going to move in seconder, moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Ricky Schoenfeld. Councilor Burns.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, be read a third time and finally passed this 20th day of September 22. September 2022, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckley,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Ricky Schoenfeld,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. Very good. And finally, we have a motion that the September 20th, 2022 regular meeting of council adjourns at 9:08 p.m. moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Ricky Schoenfeld. Councilor Burns.
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Ricky Schoenfeld,
yes.
I mean, yeah. Thank you.